So Tuesday, July 25th, the Jaguars officially report to training camp. The whole entire roster does. Saturday, August 12th, the Jaguars play their first preseason game against the Dallas Cowboys. And then Sunday, September 10th, the Jaguars have their season opener against the Indianapolis Colts. So with all that said, why don't we go ahead and get a season preview going here for our Jaguars? Now, the 2022 season, when a lot of people think about it from a broad fan standpoint or a fan of the NFL, they think of that Los Angeles Chargers playoff game with the Jaguars, fell behind like 27 to nothing. Then Trevor Lawrence had 4 picks, and then we came back and won that game. That's pretty much what a lot of people think about. But you could also say that game was almost like a microcosm of our whole entire season. The Jaguars started the season 3-7. There was a 5-game losing streak in there. You could even make the argument that those 5-game losing streak was like the 5 turnovers we had in that Chargers game. And then the Jaguars ended the season 6-1, AFC South champions, and they wound up going 1-1 in the playoffs before losing to the eventual Super Bowl champions with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, how did that season happen? How did 2022 season play out the way it did? Now, last year around this time when I was making this preview video, there were so many question marks. It was honestly hard to do a preview video for the Jaguars because, look, there was brand new coaches, from head coach down to offensive, defensive coordinator, all the way down to position coaches. There were only like a couple of guys retained. So that was one big thing. There were a lot of new players. The Jaguars spent a record-breaking amount of money in free agency to bring some veterans in here. The Jaguars had a lot of draft capital as well. And the Jaguars had a lot of young players going into second years. So, we're seeing a bunch of rookies evolve into second-year vets. And we had to see kind of how that played out. Now, and then the Jaguars also had brand new schemes. They had to learn a brand new offense, brand new defense. So there was just so many things moving and so many things going where we were sitting here like, we don't really know our own team very well right now. So one thing that I did was I actually took a look at my preview video from last year and tried to gather an idea of what I was saying. And here's kind of an example of things I was saying. The cornerstone players of those Super Bowl teams should be on the roster right now. Guys like Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, like Brandon Sheriff, Travis Etienne, Trevon Walker, Josh Allen. Like, those guys are here. Really, with the Jaguars in 2022, it's like a rush to maturity because you have a lot of new pieces on this Jaguars team. It's just how quickly can these guys, these brand new parts come together, play as one, be a solid team, be a good team, and really start playing like that and moving forward and bringing out wins in 2022. That's going to be the big question because, the Jaguars, they could, like, if they don't rush to maturity quick enough, they could start off in September and be 1-3. Then, 2-2 in October. Then you're sitting there at what is that, like 3-5, halfway through the year. Then you might have like a winning November, but then you're kind of 500. It's a tough, slippery road, but it's all about, man, can this team get on fire early and be good? That is just going to have to be determined. But I'm hoping for the Jaguars 8-9 this year, and then next year the sky is the limit. Next year training wheels are off. Next year we're not saying, oh, can the Jaguars please have a losing record, just not that bad of a losing record? No. It's next year it should be AFC South title, Super Bowl title. Now, those things kind of eventually played out. Look, last year for the Jaguars was all about a rush to maturation. The Jaguars had the talent in-house. The Jaguars, the nucleus was set. It's just all about, at some point, the Jaguars team is going to click. At some point, Trevor's going to take hold of this offense. The coaches are going to understand the players' strengths, which definitely happened down the stretch. I mean, you saw position changes with Darius Williams moving back on the outside. You saw Trayvon Walker starting to play more in a three-point stance as opposed to standing up. The coaches learned the players a lot better and got them in positions to do better. And then the Jaguars overall understood how to start winning. that whole entire like 5-game losing streak, that whole entire thing was one possession games. They kept getting so close, but they just were coming up with losses. And, it got a little bit frustrating at times. But the Jaguars started slow, finished fast, and luckily they got a little bit of a help from the Titans as the Titans completely nosedived at the end of the year after Ryan Tannehill got hurt. Malik Willis was just awful, and I think they ended the season with like 7 straight losses. So it opened up for the Jaguars. Jaguars were able to sweep the Titans, and the Jaguars were able to kind of sneak into the playoffs as AFC South champions at a record of 9-8. Still a winning record, but it was cool to see that happen. Now, as we look forward to the 2023 season, look, 2023, the sky is the limit. The Jaguars might have been a year early. In 2022, they were supposed to probably be 7-10 around there, getting the bearings straight, getting prepped for this year where the sky did become the limit. But the Jaguars won the AFC South. They were able to get some playoff experience. And then now the Jaguars, sky's the limit. Look, Super Bowl hopes this year, maybe not Super Bowl expectations, but definitely Super Bowl hopes. The expectations for the Jaguars this year is to be able to make the playoffs, make more noise, maybe get into the AFC Championship game. This is very tough now with the AFC. You got juggernauts at quarterback all over the place, but we are Super Bowl hopeful. Now, how did the Jaguars get to the playoffs, first of all? Well, the easiest way to get into the playoffs is through the division. So the Jaguars need to defeat their division opponents. And right now, the AFC South is not shaping up to be a very good division. Now, I think when you look at it, the Texans and Colts are going through clear rebuilds. The rosters aren't great right now. They are more than likely going to be playing a rookie quarterback week 1. So their seasons are all about, let's acclimate the rookie quarterback. Let's, try to make sure that we have the right pieces around him and just that they learn the offense so they can be ready to kind of make a push for next year. I see that this more as a rebuilding year. With next year, maybe they start to crank it up and try to make the run for the AFC South. But the Jaguars still do have the Titans in the way. And, I'm not one to dismiss the Titans as much as I like to talk crap about the Titans on Twitter because there's a lot of fans on there and there's a lot of just smack talking. I'll keep it a buck on this YouTube channel and say that the Titans are a little worrisome. Look, they're a team that they're not sexy on paper. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is not like a very fun quarterback, but Ryan Tannehill can win regular season games. He can drive that ship. Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry until he's not Derrick Henry. And, early on, it looked like maybe they were trying to maybe they're trying to rebuild them and they were cutting some veterans like, Taylor Lewan is one player that comes to mind. But then, they decided to spend some money on the team and they just brought in D-Hop. I do believe that they are going to be a force to reckon with. They're a very tough team to play. They have a great defense. They seem to win games against pretty good teams. I mean, they can beat the Chiefs. They can go out there and beat just good teams in general. So they're definitely a team that we should be on the lookout for and that we should not just dismiss. Now, I do think the Jaguars are more talented than them. I think that, we have the better quarterback than them. So I do think that the Jaguars should be able to handle them, but they're not a team that should overlook. I do think that they will challenge the Jaguars for the AFC South Championship. Now, when you look at like the Vegas odds, Vegas loves the Jaguars. I mean, the over-under win differential between when you look at all around the NFL between who Vegas thinks is going to finish first and second in their division, there's the biggest discrepancy with the Jaguars. The Jaguars have the highest odds to win their division of any team out there because, look, as good as the Chiefs are, they have the Chargers in their division. As good as maybe the Bills are, they have the Jets and they have the Dolphins breathing down their neck. And then you look at the North with the Bengals, they have the Ravens right there. So they think that the gap between first and second place in the AFC South is much, much larger. You also look at it, look, the Jaguars do have a first place schedule with the Chiefs, Bills, 49ers. No doubt those are going to be hard games. We got to hope that we can at least split that, at least get one win out of those. And then you look at the Jaguars play the NFC South, which the NFC South is probably maybe even worse than the AFC South right now. I mean, quarterbacks are kind of a mess there. Granted, Derek Carr just went to New Orleans. The The Panthers are going to be probably starting a rookie. There's a very real chance that 7 out of 17 of the Jaguars games in 2023 might be against rookie quarterbacks, especially depending on whether the Titans decide to start Will Levis in year one. So NFC South, the Jaguars also play the AFC North, so that should be a tough one. But every team in the AFC South plays the AFC North as well. So there's really no difference in scheduling between them and the other teams around the division. So you look at the schedule. Yeah, we know what the schedule is. Next step, coaching. Now, Doug Peterson, huge X factor. Doug Peterson, one of the better coaches the Jaguars have ever had in history. I mean, his first year on the Jaguars took the worst team in the NFL in back-to-back years to the playoffs, won a playoff game. It was we got everything we could have asked for out of Doug Peterson in year one. But besides that, when you look past that, look, this will be the first time since the 2017 to 2018 season where we have the same offensive coordinator from year one to year two. I mean, that's the first time we haven't had a switch of offensive coordinators in back-to-back seasons. I mean, you look back, there's been John DeFilippo, Jay Gruden, Darrell Bevel. Back in 2018, that was Nate Hackett. So I think, in the past however many years I've been on this channel, season preview of saying, okay, we got to install a new offense. We got to do this. Now we have the offense. Now, like Trevor Lawrence doesn't have to learn a brand new offense. Now it's all about expanding on that. Now it's all about teaching the new players the offense. And it should just be a much smoother transition to where, maybe the Jaguars aren't as fun to watch in preseason because we're not playing as many starters. So, yeah, that's, I think, a big factor. And, Press Taylor, good offensive coordinator. Of course, he doesn't call plays. Doug Peterson does, but he'll be a guy, when you hear him talk, he kind of sounds like a head coach. So he might be a guy that if the Jaguars make another run, maybe some teams are, trying to talk to him, as he kind of fits that. The head coach that people are looking for now is the, young guy. He's the offensive guy. He's Zach Taylor's brother, who's the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. So Press Taylor, returning offensive coordinator, same offensive scheme. It's going to be good stuff. We also have a returning defensive coordinator with Mike Caldwell. Now, Mike Caldwell had his ups and downs last year. A lot of, the defense was bad at times. But one thing we got to keep in mind is that the defense is a pretty complicated defense, and there were just so many new pieces. I mean, you're getting contributions from rookies like, Trayvon Walker. You also had Devin Lloyd, who was pretty confused with the offense, and, Darius Williams was brand new. You had really a lot of moving pieces on the defense, and a lot of times they're trying to learn it. But we're hoping that some of these guys, at the end of the year, they really learned the defense. So hopefully they all take a step forward, in this year. And then really, when you look around at other coachings, I mean, there wasn't a lot of coaching updates. Our passing game coordinator, Bob Cooter, got the OC job for the Colts, so he's gone. And outside of that, obviously we have the new passing game coordinator, and we have a new wide receiver coach with Chad Hall from the Bills, and that's like it when it comes to coaching updates. So a lot of continuity on the coaching staff, which is definitely a positive. Now, let's kind of shift gears to the defense. Now, I'm not going to do a whole entire defensive audit, but I'll give you some kind of things to look out for. Now, last year, like I said, there was a ton of new, especially when you look at it. The thing I'm most fascinated about with the defense this year is really Trayvon Walker. Look, last year, the Jaguars had the number 1 overall pick in the draft. They decided to go draft Trayvon Walker. They said Trayvon Walker is better than any other, or at least projects to be better than any other player in this draft. But they drafted a guy that they said, this guy is going to get sacks. And the guy that they drafted wasn't the guy that got sacks in college. I mean, it's all projections. So now there's no more real excuses for Trayvon Walker. When I go to training camp for the first time, I'm going to be locked in on him, seeing, okay, is he just bull rushing? Does he have some new techniques? What is he doing? Because, look, the Jaguars are really, really banking on Trayvon Walker being good, because you have him, you have Josh Allen in a contract year. But outside of that, I have serious concerns about the pass rush. I mean, you lost Arden Key and DeJuan Smoot, two big pass rushing guys. I mean, 2 out of our 4 leading sackers from last year, they're now gone, or you replace them with basically nothing. So right now, I'm a little bit concerned about the defense, especially the pass rush, because we are literally a Josh Allen injury away from starting Caleb Von Chason. there's a lot of things I can overlook. I can overlook the fact that Trey Herndon is probably going to be starting at nickel, to start the year. I can, look past a lot of stuff, but it's very, very hard for me to look over the fact that our edge depth is very, very thin, and we're banking on guys like maybe the Deshaun Dixon, who has like one NFL tackle. We're banking on guys like Jordan Smith, who has, I think, like 2 NFL tackles. A lot of guys that are complete unknowns. So I'm going to not overstate it, but I'm going to keep harping on the fact that I'm not good with this edge position until we address it. And there's got to be somebody in free agency. There's guys, Yannick Ngakoue, Jadeveon Clowney. I don't even need to go for somebody that's that upper echelon. Just bring in a guy on a 1-year deal that's done it. I don't know, Carlos Dunlap. There's Justin Houston. Somebody come in here that's played a position that can just come in, play a few snaps per game that can just generate some pass rush on third down. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah, when it comes to that, yeah, Jags lost Smoot and Arden Key. And I think with the defense just needs to be good enough, because when we switch gears to the offense, Jaguars made their biggest investments in this offseason on the offense. You start off with Calvin Ridley, and I think you guys that have been watching me know very well that I usually don't go overly crazy on my projections. I'm a big guy that I want to see it before I start, before I really start going out there and really promoting these guys. I don't really know what word I'm looking for, but before I really get on the bandwagon of this guy's going to be amazing. But Calvin Ridley is a guy that I have loved him his whole NFL career. When they were out there and Calvin Ridley kind of made it known that he wanted to be traded, I was right there making a video that day. We needed to trade for this guy. And of course, he had his little issues that he ran into, and I kind of stopped that. But Calvin Ridley is going to be phenomenal. I think he's going to be a 12 to 1,400 yards player. I know a lot of people have their concerns. Oh, it took a year off. How's that going to affect him? And a lot of people kind of compare it to Le'Veon Bell, and I think it's apples to oranges when it comes to comparing it to him. Le'Veon Bell is kind of a knucklehead. He went to the New York Jets under Adam Gase, so it's just a bad situation. If you want to compare it to a guy, look, if you want to go on the younger spectrum, Jamar Chase sat out his final year of college football, and he comes over to the Cincinnati Bengals and he doesn't miss a step. I think it's going to be similar with Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is motivated. I've seen his workout videos. I've seen where his footwork is. I've seen the kind of good weight that he's put on. I really think that Calvin Ridley is going to be the Stephon Diggs to the Josh Allen, the Tyreek Hill to the Tua Tagovailoa, the A.J. Brown to the Jalen Hurts. I think that he's going to be a phenomenal player. And if healthy, I think, 12 to 1,400 yards for him. When in the draft, you look at the draft investments, first, second, and third round picks, all on offense. The whole entire day 1, day 2 on offense. You get a right tackle in Anton Harrison to replace Jawan Taylor, who went on to the Chiefs. You also bring in a tight end in Britton Strange. You bring in a running back and Tank Bigsby. I know a lot of people were kind of rubbed the wrong way. They wanted to get cornerback. They wanted to get edge. But when you look at it, we made investments on offense, and that should only make our offense even better. And you also gave the new contract to Evan Ingram, so he's locked up for another 3 years. You're seeing a trend where the Jaguars invested heavily in this offense, and the Jags treated this offseason like they want our offense to score 30-plus points per game. And that's why I said, look, our defense has their concerns, but I think the defense just needs to be good enough for our offense to go out there and be able to really, really produce. And the biggest reason for success, I don't think I've mentioned him once in this video, but it's Trevor freaking Lawrence, man. Look, Trevor Lawrence killed it last year. I'm not going to go through all his stats because I think a lot of you guys know it, but he's being talked about as a potential top 5 quarterback. Right now when you go through NFL quarterback tiers, I think tier 1 is Mahomes all by himself. There's that tier 2 with Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. And I think Trevor is kind of on that tier 3, probably with a guy like Jalen Hurts that has had that year of production, but they need to do it consistently and they need to do it more spread out. And I think that, look, Trevor Lawrence could definitely enter that next tier. And look, if Trevor Lawrence goes out there and leads the Jaguars to a Super Bowl, we could very well be sitting here and saying that Trevor Lawrence is the second best quarterback in the AFC, or in the NFL, I should say. And now it's all about, can he get another Lombardi, take down the Chiefs and, do that. So, we could very well be looking at the 2023 season as the best quarterback season we've ever seen out of a Jaguars quarterback. So it's really exciting. So an overall outlook for the Jaguars. I'm sorry this video is very long. Did not intend it to be that way, but hey, it's July. You guys are craving content, right? Ceiling for the Jaguars, I think probably 13 wins. That would be 13-4. I think that's you know, I can't even imagine that record. I can't imagine. I remember last year watching the Jaguars Cowboys, and I was seeing the Cowboys record, and I think it was like, what was it, like 10-3? I'm like, I couldn't imagine being 10-3. So the Jaguars, I mean, look, very good chance that they have a lot of wins. Maybe floor would be like 7 wins if things just don't go right. Injury doesn't go our way. Maybe Trevor Lawrence regresses. Gosh, I don't think that's going to happen. But, if I'm going to say a floor, I'm going to say that. But look, overall, before I head out of here, I want to say a few things. Look, the Jaguars play a first place schedule. And look, yeah, we play a first place schedule. We're supposed to be a good team. We should be able to beat good teams. But I think out of this whole thing, I think the Jaguars need to beat the Chiefs week 2. I mean, the Jaguars have not defeated the Chiefs since 2009. The Jaguars lost to the Chiefs twice last year. The second worst loss by, they had 2 losses by double digits. One of them was in the regular season against the Chiefs. I think that the Jaguars at some point, kind of like how Mahomes had never beat Burrow, and then Mahomes finally beat Burrow in the playoffs. I think that the Jaguars need to find a way to defeat the Chiefs, and I think that week 2 game is really important. I know people might compare it. Oh, the Jaguars in 2018, they didn't beat, or they beat the Patriots. What did that get us? Whatever. I don't really care about that. I'm saying that I think the Jaguars need to get over the hump of the Chiefs. Look, we beat the Bills. I've seen them beat the Bills. The 49ers, they're in the NFC, whatever. I think the Bills game is very important. I think that the Jaguars need to go 5-1 against the AFC South. I think that, look, you're clearly better than the Texans. You're clearly better than the Colts. I know division games are a little funky sometimes, but it's time to really lay down our dominance. It's time to defeat, shove our division opponents into the dirt. Last year we had, some good success, 4-2 against the AFC South, including sweeping the Titans. We'll love to sweep the Titans again. So, those are a couple things. But overall, man, look, if you're a Jaguar fan, I'm speaking directly to you. Okay. If you're not a Jaguar fan, you can click off the video. Okay. I'm speaking directly to Jaguar fans right now. Look, we have paid our dues with losing, with bad coaching, with just terrible quarterbacking, with bad rosters, with getting spanked at TIAA Bank Field. But guess what, man? It's time for us to cash in. The Jaguars have a good team, a good roster, good quarterback, good coaches. It's time for us to go out there and just smack opponents. Be in there, come to the bank. We're winning by 20. We decide we want to leave early to beat traffic, whatever. It's time to just establish ourselves as one of the premier teams in the NFL and the AFC, and have a season similar to the Bengals last year, where we're not one-year wonders. It's time for us to establish our dominance. And when people mention the playoffs, they Sharpie the Jaguars in, and they try to fill out the 5th, 6th, 7th teams. Okay. So it's our year. It's time for us to cash in. Let's have a good year. Go Jags. Like this video on your way out for me if you guys enjoy it. And if you're a new watcher, I make a bunch of Jaguar videos. Been making Jaguar videos since January of 2017. Click the subscribe button if you want to join in on the fun with us, because it's going to be a blast this year. Go Jags.